Holy cow, guys. It is snowing out here, but it is gorgeous. My putting stinks, 940 rated. That put me at about 50% of the field, making 50% of those shots. I'm winded just from this little bit of putting, but it is a gorgeous day. Thanks for tuning in. We got good conversation. We've got good co-hosts. Let's get animated. Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 Trilogy Talks. Scott here. Today I'm here with someone new, another new face. We have Chad Kelley. He's a local guy here in Kansas City. He's been playing a lot of tournament over the last couple of years. Kind of a newer recreational intermediate player. So I'm glad to have him here. Good to have you here, Chad.
Glad to be here.
So you guys know a little bit about me. So before we get started, let's hear from Chad a little bit. Chad, just tell us a little bit about your disc golf career, how you got started. And
it's probably a tale that's pretty familiar for pretty much anybody. Had a buddy.
Courtesy violation.
Yeah, sorry about that. Had a good friend of mine that, one day he just said, hey, why don't you come on out with me sometime? I got into disc golf and it's really fun, and he's like, why don't you come out and, give it a try? I was, okay. And it turned out it was, probably about, just a couple weeks before the Trilogy Challenge. And I think that was in
15?
No, I think it was 16.
16.
Yeah, I think it was 16. 2016 Trilogy Challenge. I got maybe, I think, 2 full rounds in before the Trilogy Challenge. That was kind of like his sales pitch to me, though. He's like, it's pretty cool, pretty cool little event. You get to sign up. And
who was it?
It was Jack Lapartis.
Okay, yeah.
And he was like, you get to sign up, and it's only $30. You get 3 discs, and you get a little bit of swag, this and that. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds kind of cool. The value's there. Okay. If I don't like it, whatever.
So I ran your first tournament?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you did. Over there at Swope.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. But yeah, we went out to the soccer field, and he kind of showed me how to throw the discs a little bit, and I got a couple of rounds in, a little bit of practice, and then we went out and I kind of jumped right into the events, the tournaments, and after that one Trilogy Challenge, I was pretty much hooked. I mean, I was all in, and it's all been, head underwater since then. But it's a good time.
I know you've been to a lot of tournaments over the last few years of mine, and I think you've gotten a perfect attendance once for the Kansas City mini-series.
Yep.
You've been a part of them at least over the last 2 years. A little bit about myself that I actually haven't shared with hardly too many people, but definitely the Trilogy fans have never heard this. So when I got started in around the mid-90s, I lived in Hays, Kansas, and I wanted something new to do. And I wanted a new hobby. I wasn't sure even what I wanted. And at that point, I had been watching golf. I watched SportsCenter, a lot of different stuff, but as far as a one-person sport or something I could do hobby-wise, I wanted to do golf. So I actually went to, it was a local sporting goods store in Hays. I can't remember the name of it, but I went to go look at golf clubs. And of course, at the time, I was a college student. I was like, oh, it's just too expensive. I wanted just to buy like 1 or 2 clubs. And of course, the guy there made it sound like I was dumb for doing that. And so I kind of walked away. And then I went to Walmart like the next day, just on a random. And I ran across these discs. And it said disc golf on it. And I kind of heard through the grapevine about it before. But I knew nothing about it. I was like, oh, golf with discs. So I bought an In of a Dolphin. So it's not Trilogy, but my very first disc was an In of a Dolphin. And I went out and played. And I played for a few months by myself, and I loved it. I mean, I was pretty much hooked from day one. I think I was hooked before I even started because I loved the concept of it. But one of the stories that I have is I was in Colby, Kansas, and I don't remember what hole I was on. And again, I knew nothing about any of the rules yet. So I threw my disc, and it hit the ground, slid up, hit the pole. Well, I thought at that point, all you had to do was hit the basket to get a hole-in-one. That's what somebody had told me. So bottom or the top 2/3 of the basket was blocked by a tree. So all you could see is the bottom of the pole. And like a week later, I was on that hole. I caught up to some guys, Kyle Klingers out of Colby, Kansas, and I ran into him. That's where I met him, and I told him, I got a hole-in-one on this. He's like, what, really? Like, I've never seen a hole-in-one on this hole. And so I explained the shot to him. He goes, did you hit the pole or go in the basket? And I hit the pole. You know, super excited. He goes, yeah, that doesn't count. You got to hit the basket. And I'm
nice,
like, what?
Nice, too.
And that's pretty much what the story went. And then, so that was kind of like within my first couple months, I was like, I kind of found it on my own, on an accident. I probably was that silly kid out there and no clue what's going on. The etiquettes, I'm sure, were out the window, but like didn't even know what a hole-in-one was. And but like I said, that was mid-90s, and it's been a long time since. And yeah, a lot's changed. So all right, so you said your first event was the Trilogy Challenge. Had you been exposed to the Trilogy Discs prior to that? I mean, what were you throwing prior to that, or how did you actually get introduced to the Trilogy Discs?
Formally, I would say it was the Trilogy Challenge. I don't remember now if Jack had any Trilogy Discs when he showed me. I know the first disc I threw was DX Valkyrie.
Okay.
And I threw it straight up in the air. And he just kind of laughed and said, yeah, that happens. So, you know, but...
have you beat Jack since?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
okay. Not, you know, not every time for sure. We're pretty level, you know. He's rated higher than me right now, so...
For those who don't know, Jack Leparis is a local disc golfer as well. And he attends to a lot of events with Chad. He's been around that same amount of time, at least in my circle I've seen. So one of these days, he's on my list to get him in here too, so everybody can meet him at some point. But just to give you a little bit of an introduction to who Jack is.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Jack CK? Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why,
yeah.
But yeah. And a lot of people get he and I confused because they think we're brothers or something like that, but we're not.
Just
anyway,
will be.
Good friends. Grew up together, so.
So you got a couple years now with Trilogy under your belt, and you throw almost exclusively Trilogy.
That's
right?
that's all I have in my
You're
bag.
exclusively Trilogy now. DD comes out and says, out of all the Trilogy brands, they're discontinuing a disc, and it's one of the discs in your bag. Which disc would you be the most sad in your bag to find out they discontinued it?
Well, probably one that I don't think that they would ever discontinue, but it'd probably be the EMAC Truth.
Yeah, you're probably right. So,
yeah, I mean, I would say that's if not my absolute favorite, it's right up there.
Have you played with this one yet?
The Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I have not.
That is the even more. It's like between a Verdict and an EMAC Truth. It's a little bit more overstable than a traditional EMAC Truth, a lot more resistant to turning over. So like an EMAC, if I really crank on it, I can get it to turn. If I throw it smooth, it stays straight for days. But it's also, I can throw it really hard, almost like a beat-in Verdict. So, and in episode 3, I actually had stated that the Verdict for me is probably the #1 disc that.
Yeah, I actually just started throwing the Lucid X Verdicts.
Oh, okay.
And that was actually the first Verdicts
that
I really threw, and it's in my bag.
I got one of the Paige Bjerka's Lucid X ones. I was there when she had that fundraiser.
Yeah.
And I picked up a few. I picked up a bunch for Derek, but I got the ability to get myself a few. And I threw it at the USDGC, and I threw it in the water. And since then, I haven't wanted to put it. I have, I think, 1 or 2 more. But I haven't wanted to put it back in my bag. And I'm actually excited about that, because that's, like I said to me, is it's going to kind of fill that void. I have a Bio Verdict that's in my bag that is just pristinely beaten. It's just money. And I'm scared to death to lose it. Because, like, it's taken me 3 years to get this one beat in the way I want. And
that's always a fear.
Right. So, all right. So, kind of a small topic, and I don't want to get too much into this, but we could talk about it a little bit. Is one of the things that make Trilogy so unique out of all the manufacturers is the collector market. It's the niche of the family. It's, I mean, on Facebook, it's just, everybody's so close. I mean, yes, you have a lot of people, other people in there who don't really that negative ninny, you know, kind of stuff. But every manufacturer, and I've dealt with every manufacturer. I'm involved still with a lot of manufacturers. My heart ultimately is with Trilogy, but I have a long history prior to Trilogy, so I have those connections. But one of the things with Trilogy to me that is super exciting from day one is kind of like the collector market. So I guess I just want to get your opinion on, you know, like these ones right off the bat. You know, a lot of people are going to want to collect those or buy those to throw them, but then you're also going to get people who are going to collect them. Right. So like right away, it's a new disc that's come out. We're pushing it to get people in their hands, but at the same time, you're going to get somebody who is going to collect them. Right. And I'm a big collector too. I mean, I'm probably one of the largest when it comes to the dynamic disc collection, and but that's more of personal. I love from that. So do you have an opinion about the collector market? I mean, what do you think about, you know, people who buy discs to collect it versus people who buy discs, collector discs to resell, to throw, to sit on? You know, like for years, up till real recently, if a new disc came out, so like these first run will come out, like the Recoil and the Pioneer, they come out here. It's in my notes. I forgot. The Recoil and Pioneer actually come out on January 23rd as a buyback, but then the first runs come out on February 15th. So even on February 15th, then everybody's going to buy those. But even I will have been for years of just, I want 5 of them, I put them away, right, and then later on I throw them. So I'm kind of hoarding them, so to speak, and I collect as many as I can. Are you a collector at all? You?
Yeah, a little bit. I definitely collect wardens. I've got a lot of wardens.
How many wardens do you think you have?
I would say I've probably got. I think I'm probably pushing 100.
Okay. So what's that Holy Grail warden you don't have?
Well, you know, I probably have to. I mean, I don't think I have any of the first run blend wardens yet, which for me,
the XL ones,
yeah,
okay,
which for me would be, you know, kind of a big deal because the blend warden is my baby. Right. I mean, that's that's my putter.
So all of a sudden, I come up to you and I just pull out of here and I say, "Here's a blend warden. Are you throwing it or is it going in your collection?"
Well, if it's one of the first runs, it's going in the collection. Okay. Now, if you give me 2 of them, the second one might have a risk of getting in the air. But okay. I doubt it. I mean, I'd probably hang on to that one too. You know, it's kind of one of those things. I mean, it's just like anything else. You get collectors in just about anything. Really.
Sure.
I mean, and some people think it's ridiculous and stupid to pay, you know, $20, $40, $60, $80, $100, way more than that for a piece of plastic. But, you know, at the same time, you know, it can be an investment a little bit, and right, right.
So Moonshine Eric Judges, those are all the backups I have. Those aren't even part of my main collection, from there to there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually I had a few of those myself at one time, and I sold them off recently. But you know, it's kind of like anything. You buy it, you hang on to it, and its value is so much, but its value is only there if you sell it.
The value is only, you know, is only worth what it is to that person.
Right.
You know, as I collect virtually anything and everything, DD. I mean, if you look at my little collection here, I've got a pass here from a Super Bowl party that DD went to. It means nothing to probably anybody, but at some day down the road, it just adds to that history. I mean, right. I've collected, virtually every one of these little things from every time I've bought something from somebody. You know, and those are just all part of the collection. It could be, you know, call it silly. You could call it what you want. For me, it's just it's an addition, and I like to be able to look in here and see that, and it makes me excited. And I don't throw any collector discs. If I can't buy it off a stock shelf, I have no interest in throwing it. Now there are a few, like I have some X-out first run felons or prototype felons, but there are X-outs, and I have 3 or 4 already. And I've had the one I have since they first came out, so I'm not really in risk. But even if I lose that, knowing I have 3 or 4, I don't even know that I'll go to it. Because I have another stock felon that doesn't do, it's not quite as overstable, but it's not that big a difference for me. So I think, you know, a lot of those discs come out. They're different for everybody. A lot of people look at those collector discs, so discs are meant to fly. You know, kinds of things. And discs are meant to fly, but plates are meant to get eaten on. And I know a lot of families who have plates displayed through stamps are made to put on an envelope to ship stuff out. But I know a lot of people who have stamp collections, you know, high dollar stuff, coins, different things like that. So like you said, you can collect anything. But from a collector's standpoint, I think it's more about making you happy. You know, kinds of stuff. I think it's exciting to see when you walk into something how much you have. Yeah, sometimes you can look and be overwhelmed, or your significant other looks at it and gets really overwhelmed. You know, kinds of stuff. But you know, you also go another step though with yours. I know you do collect, but you've kind of gotten into, even in the last year, of, I don't know if reselling. I mean, yes, you're reselling, but you're looking. It seems what I've noticed is you're kind of looking for collector stuff, special stuff. I haven't seen too much that, and maybe I'm missing it, but I haven't seen too much where you're selling just an everyday stock disc that you can go buy off the DD shelf. Most of the stuff you're buying is TFR, collectible, things like that.
For the most part, yeah.
You know, I mean, how did you get doing that? I mean, that just seems like, I guess from what I know of you, like when I got started, it was kind of a business, you know, kinds of things like that. Well, you have a job and you've really I've never seen too much into that business model, but I don't want to say you've created a business of it, but I would imagine you make a little bit enough to compensate for your disc golf needs.
A little bit. And that was kind of the reason why I got into it as much as I did. You know, I never really intended for that to happen. But, you know, you've got all the different, you know, various pages on Facebook, different, you know, marketplaces and, you know, all over the place. And, you know, once I got into the sport and I got real deep into the sport and, you know, I wanted to absorb all this stuff. I wanted to learn as much as I could about even different brands. But, you know, that was all part of it. I'd start paying attention to all these different Facebook pages and the marketplaces and stuff. And, you know, and then they've got the auction pages where, you know, a lot of times you can find a disc a little bit cheaper than what you might be able to find it at, you know, Academy or even some of the retail stores.
Sure.
You know, sometimes not. But as far as those went, I kind of got into that because, okay, maybe I can find some cheap plastic to throw, you know, that'll maybe allow me to try out some different molds, some different plastics and stuff without having to go buy a bunch of new discs. And, you know, cycle through all of that. And my mindset was that maybe that'll be a little bit cheaper. Now, that was before I knew about the buyback program and how DD did all that, which after that, it was kind of like, well, by the time I really learned about that, I was pretty well set on what molds I liked. So it was kind of like, well, yeah, oh well, okay, cool. But, you know, it got to the point where, okay, now I'm getting all these discs that I probably am not going to throw because for whatever reason I don't like the way it feels in my hand, or I didn't like that plastic or whatever. So I started putting some of them back up on auction. And a couple of them I ended up, you know, it was like, okay, well, I bought this one for, you know, $8, and now somebody really wants it, and they automatically threw out a $15 bid on it.
Sure.
So I'm like, well, okay, cool. You know,
that's
fantastic.
There's a lot of people. That's, again, I mean, all the manufacturers do that, and Facebook's really kind of created retailers overnight you know, kind of from that. I mean, even from playing tournaments, like you're playing amateur, people collect so much when it comes to winnings or players packages or different stuff like that. So
that was definitely something for me. The stuff that, you know, you'd get a player's pack. Well, this is not really a mold that I throw, so I'll put it up in the marketplace or on auction and see what I can get for it. And it was nice because once I started doing that a little bit more, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can do this and it'll help me fund, you know, some of the tournaments that I want to play in. And, you know, it'll kind of balance the Warden collection a little bit, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'm not really in there, like you say, to make a business out of it and to, you know, to make a, you know, big, huge amount of money. But it's, you know, it's kind of one of those things that, you know, if I can make a little bit to help me, you know, keep doing this stuff that I love, then, you know.
Well, I think a lot of the people out there can relate. I mean, it's not you or it's me, you know, or anything like that. There's so many Trilogy fans that are out there that do that, and they find that, and there's a lot of people that may be seeing this for the first time and have said, oh, I didn't even think about, you know, doing things like that. So anything that might educate them from there. So all right. So little disclaimer here, guys. We're gonna talk about something that we really don't know what we're talking about. So Chad had a question here. I'm going to relay it here in a minute. We're going to discuss it a little bit. Well, we might stumble over it for a minute. So we'll see. Be honest, at the end of it, it might not make any sense what we said. So, or it might. We'll just see what happens. So, but, all right, correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. So ultimately what I got out of your question was when an individual throws a disc, like you give the example of the sheriff, but they want the flight of the sheriff, but once in a while they want a very similar flight. So they want it to be either more with more fade or less or more turn. So they want to go left or right a little bit more, but ultimately the same thing. And a lot of people will suggest either the same mold in a different plastic or a beat-in version of it, which you can't get a beat-in version unless you can go find a used disc someplace or you beat it in already. So I guess recommending a beat-in version of a disc seems silly unless you have access to that. So if someone says you should get this and they say get a beat-in version of that, well, that's not that easy to do that. So I'm not sure why someone would suggest that.
A lot of times the beat-in versions are the one that people don't want to get rid of.
Right. I mean, you know. Unless you can go to like a Play It Against Sports or one of your retail stores that has used discs, which there are a lot of those out there, and you might find that opportunity. But I think you're suggesting a needle in a haystack when you say get a beat-in version of it. Now, maybe the ideal version would be beat-in. But so the one side of the conversation was get the same disc in a different mold or a beat-in version. Or what you choose to do, or you could do, is just purchase a different mold altogether to get that flight. Did I explain it right?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. So, so which part of that are you taking? I mean, why do you choose to, I guess, purchase a whole new mold versus the same mold in a different plastic?
Well, for me, it's kind of, and it probably started out as, okay, this disc is, well, we'll go back to the example of the sheriff, okay? For me, the sheriff is pretty stable. Now I say that in the actual use of the word stable. Straight. Yeah, I can, and when I really rip on it, I can get it to turn some, and then it'll fade back, but it's a pretty straight shot. Now obviously I can work angles and get it to turn, you know, more, and let it fade out, and, you know, do different things, or put it on a hyzer, let it come up, stay straight, and fade and get it to be farther left, and things along those lines. But like for me personally, if I have just a run-of-the-mill straight shot, I'll throw that sheriff. Now if I have a shot where I need it to come out straight, and then I need it to turn more than what my sheriff will normally do, I'll go ahead and grab my king, because I know I can throw it flat and it'll come up, fly, you know, it'll just get a nice turn to it. And depending on...
So what do you do when that king all of a sudden becomes too understable for you? So now you've got you've got a flight this way and a flight this way, but then all of a sudden now your king is going over here. Now you got this void in between. Do you just replace the king?
Probably, yeah. But see, that's partially my mindset on all of it, and that was kind of what my question was, and that may be part of the answer. But a lot of the touring pros, you know, they recommend, you know, you just work these same molds and you get certain ones that are beat in, and eventually, you know, you have one that'll turn more.
Right. I think I get a little bit more now that I've kind of said it. Me and talked about this for a few minutes before we even got on camera, and I just didn't understand. But and I'll even kind of go back and backtrack my beat-in comment. So I think what a lot of pros are doing, whether it's the difference in plastic or they're saying beat-in, is if they find a disc they like, they buy 5 of the same, as an example. They throw the one from the top, they throw it, it starts getting beat in. Where it used to be straight to left, now it's right to left. So now, that's what that one does. So now you've got to, say, an enforcer, you know, or something that used to go straight, for right-handed, go straight and then dive. Now it's slightly right. Okay, well, they don't want that. So now you take disc number 2 off. Now you've got a disc that goes straight and you've got one that goes off. Right. Eventually, you get to a point that, that's where you'll see people and they'll say, I have 5 of this in my bag or 3 of this in my bag, because those change. Those discs change. So I guess I see that, but that's probably where I see the value of having the same mold versus changing the mold. I don't think there's anything wrong no matter what a person's doing. I mean, it's whatever's comfortable for them. For me personally, yes, I'm probably that old school golfer in the sense of I just change with the mold. I don't like to have to learn a new disc in my hand. I want to be able to throw the same disc, same shot, and let the disc churn on its own, versus having to, again, learn a new depth, a new wider rim, you know, or something like that. So in the past, then I guess as you've been, right, is that what you do? You just purchase a new mold, and then,
well,
or you play with a lot of new molds to discover which mold fits in differently, that's different than the mold you already have?
I did for quite a while. I mean, like you said, I say quite a while, but like you said, I've been playing for about 2.5 years. So I haven't been in it that long. Right. But I really dove in head first. I mean, I went crazy. And probably in the first 6 months that I was playing, in the first probably 3 months that I started playing, not many weeks went by that I didn't play at least 4 rounds that week. I was all in, and I was getting plastic, trying stuff, doing different things. And
how many times have you played in 2019?
Let's see, 5, I think, maybe.
So a third of the year.
right.
I've yet to play in 2019.
Still,
the most I've played is field testing those discs.
We're gonna have to remedy that.
Yeah, well, not with a foot of snow on the ground.
Oh, come on.
I have no interest. Even with our ice bowl coming this weekend, I'll probably just go film.
Oh, I'm gonna be there.
Well, I'll be there too because I'm running it. But
but yeah, I mean that, I get discs and I figure out, okay, well this one will do that, and of course that all changed over time. The first disc that I got to stand up and get the nice S out of was a Blizzard Katana. But I was like, whoa, it just blew me away. I was just like, that was amazing.
To see the flight?
Yeah.
Or to get the
and
flight.
I actually got, hyzer flipped, it stood up, just sailed out there, got some good turn, and then it just, stabled up, got good fade out of it. I was like, wow, that was amazing. That was so cool. And so, but then, as I kept going, it kind of ties back into the Trilogy. And why I throw all Trilogy, right, was because it was really easy for me to compare the Trilogy discs. I had a hard time looking at one manufacturer and saying, okay, that one's a 1.5. What does that mean?
Right.
Okay, so I know what I've researched it. I know what speed, glide, turn, fade. Yeah. I know what that means. Okay, so you know, it was easy for me to, okay, so this one's a 14 speed, you know, whatever the numbers are. And I know numbers, but at least it gave me an idea what it's supposed to do. And then I found the Freedom.
Okay.
And I threw the Freedom as my main driver for probably about 6 months. Because I could get it to fly real similar to that Katana. You know, I could get good distance out of it, even though it was a 14 speed, but it was so understable that for me, my arm speed at the time, I could get it to stand up, ride straight, a little bit of turn, and then it would fade. Now, it's a roller. You know, I've improved myself enough that it's a hard roller. But, you know, going back to the mold elimination, you know, that was the process for me. I would find the molds that would do what I wanted it to do.
Okay.
And then I would go and I'd buy, and that's what I still do. I've got, I don't even know, probably 8 of the red lucid metallic sheriffs. I love that one. It feels good. I like the way it flies, and I like red.
Right.
So it was the triumvirate. It fit perfectly.
Sure.
And so I went out and I was just buying whatever I could find. So I'll cycle those in every now and then. So I don't have one that I throw all the time. I'll throw one for a couple months and then I'll put a different one in there. And then I'll throw that one for a couple months and I'll put a different one in there.
Okay.
So they all stay pretty close to the same level of wear. And that was kind of a twofold thing for me. That way I've got the same, I don't have to worry about one beating in and getting real flippy on me. And if I happen to lose it, I don't have anything to replace it, because this one has gotten to this point, and now I love this disc, but I don't have anything that flies like that, even though I have the same disc.
Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong one way or the other. I think everybody's got their opinion. And honestly, until you asked that to me today, I never really thought of that, which is why I like the question, because I think it'll educate people out there. Of, there's some people may only be purchasing new discs to get those. Again, nothing wrong with that, but then might help people understand a little bit why pros or some golfers just cycle through discs to get that understability change. I personally don't change plastics to throw. I probably go that beat-in route a little bit more, and I'm kind of regretting my little rant about the beat-in part at the beginning here a few minutes ago now, but I think I'm very active with the beat-in part. I buy, like I said, multiple discs, and I don't change plastics. I mean, there are some discs that I want lucid and I don't want fusion, and vice versa for the others. And I don't want to have to change my grip or the feel to get a certain flight characteristic. So I find what I like and I buy several and I beat them in. I also try to minimize the molds a little bit, but I try to keep whatever I'm doing consistent. I know there's a lot of people out there who can change the angles. If you're throwing something straight, you need it to go right, put a slight right angle on it. You need it to fade out harder left, put a little bit left angle on it.
Right.
And I know, and everybody has that choices. Crank it 100%, throw it 70%. You're going to get 2 different flight characteristics from that. So, but yeah. So on that, kind of move on from there. Chad kind of alluded to it a little bit, and it was something I've always kind of been curious about. But Chad throws all red. He's got a red cart. He wears all red. A lot of people I've worked in the disc golf industry for a long time avoid red. If he gets a disc that's not red, he will dye it red.
Yes, I will.
So were you a red freak before disc golf?
Yeah, pretty much. I think when I was, maybe 6, 7, 8, maybe, I think my favorite color used to be green.
Okay.
But probably not too much longer after that. I don't, I can't really nail down when or why, but it red.
Yeah. I've seen people collect, all whites, all pink, all blues, because those are bright, vibrant colors, oranges. I've never seen all red. Personally, I try to make sure I every disc in my bag is a different color. But that's more for the fact of I'm not always complacent of what or thinking about what I'm doing. And if these two discs are in there and they're both white, I just grab, and I assumed I grabbed the Gatekeeper, but I didn't. In this case, I grabbed the Vandal. You know, I mean, yes, I got a driver in mid-range here. I would probably notice that difference, but the point is, if I've got two blues in my bag, I'm not always paying attention to which blue I grabbed. And that's my own fault, and that's probably why I'm never getting any better. So, but yeah, it's a interesting kind of you know, as long as I've known you, I've always known the red. You know, and does Jack? He doesn't throw one color, right?
For the most part.
Does it? What
he mostly throws orange.
Oh, okay. That's right. Didn't he had a thing with Ryan George there for a while? Didn't he on the King of Orange, King of Pink?
Yeah, he was trying to be cool.
Yeah. So, all right. One of the new questions or new things that I've been thinking about, and in episode 3 we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'll probably ask this going forward is pet peeves. I listen to a lot of people. I've TD'd a lot. I've played a lot of tournaments, and tournaments or casuals. But there are pet peeves, and I kind of hope just by talking about them once in a while, or get different opinions, they'll spark in people's heads like, I do that.
Oh.
I didn't realize that people are annoyed by that. You know, but like for me, a pet peeve playing recreationally is, and I know people are on time, and I'm not saying 100% that this is always bad to do, but I hate when people jump in front of me when I'm playing on a casual round, you know, kind of thing. Just, I'm playing and I'm on hole 3 somewhere, and all of a sudden, you know, there's 3-card backup on 1, but they decided I'm going to go jump on 4. You know, where I waited on hole 1. I have it. Maybe there's nobody in front of me. And now all of a sudden there is. I've even had it happen, you know, where there isn't hardly anybody on the course. And then somebody jumps in if it's one person or they're playing with someone, they're slower, or they're a group of people, mob golf, you know, stuff, and they don't have the common courtesy to say, oh, you can go ahead and go through. Right. I have to speed up my game to kind of ride them to get them to notice, like, hey, I'm
right here.
I'm getting ready to play through you now. But that also affects my game from there. Now, I realize there's some people that are just very courteous. I've had people who jumped in front of me that immediately waved me through. They'll sit on a hole for minutes prior to me getting there to do it. And those are the good ones. I mean, I'm fine with that. But probably for this conversation, my annoyance is people who are unaware of their surroundings and jump in front of you.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Have you ever done that to somebody?
Yeah.
But I'm sure I've done it too. But
in my defense, it was actually down here at Heritage the other day. I was getting in a round right after work, and I saw a group that went and teed off. There was, I think, about 5 of them teed off on hole 1, and I went and made a few practice putts, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready, but I don't want to get stuck in here behind this group, so I just went ahead and went down to hole 4 and just jumped ahead of them by a few holes. I knew I was going to outpace them anyway. So
the difference is you were 1 versus 5.
Right.
They were almost guaranteed to not see you. So in that case, if the people who were on hole 1 had that same pet peeve, they would have never noticed you.
Right.
You know, the difference is more of when that person's walking up to hole 4 and then you walked onto hole 4 just in front of them, you know, kind of thing. And then you're one-on-one probably most of the time is not going to make a difference. But usually where the pet peeve of mine comes in is it's not usually just one-on-one. Right. It's me versus 2 or 3. And I've been playing a while, so I play faster than probably the majority of the people are out there. And then all of a sudden, I'm waiting. You know, I've been playing smooth. All of a sudden, now I got to stop. And again, it could be just me. Everybody watching could be like, yeah, that's just dumb. You know. But for me, when I'm out on the course, that is one of those things that maybe some people will relate. Like I said, some people might just kind of think I'm crazy for it. And I'm like I said, I've done that even at Heritage, where I can go jump on hole 9, right? You know, kind of thing. But I also conscious enough to see, is there anybody walking up hole 8, right, before I get started?
And that's that's one of those things. That's where the courtesy of it comes into play. You're paying attention. Okay, there's somebody coming up here. I'll wait. I'll let them go, and then I'll start. But that's kind of like anything with any of the pet peeves. There's going to be people that are like, really, that bothers you? Get over it.
Well, I do get over it, but this is my platform.
I can do what I want.
To educate the world that be courteous and aware of your surroundings if you're gonna do that.
Right. You know, that aware of your surroundings, that really kind of ties into, you know, what would be pet peeves for me. And that kind of goes with casual rounds, tournament rounds, you know, both ways. You get a lot of guys that like to wear their headphones, and I don't have anything, you know, I don't have any problem with that. But, you know, sometimes you can hear the music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll be up there getting, especially in a tournament. If it's casual, you know, whatever. It's not that big a deal. But in a tournament setting, if I can hear your music, because you're standing, you know, 3 feet behind the tee pad,
right,
and I'm sitting here trying to focus, it bothers me a little bit. Most of the time, I can tune it out for the most part. But some of that depends on my mental state at the time too, whether I'm playing well or not.
How annoyed you are, frustrated.
You know, it's just a handful of things like that. You know, when people want to, you know, when they're smoking, you know, a lot of times they'll be courteous enough to be like, "Hey, do you mind? What am I supposed to say?"
Right.
No, you know, or yeah, I don't do that. Which, you know, for me, it's basically I just tell them, you know, I don't care as long as you're, you know, away and I'm not smelling it. I don't smell like it at the end of the day, or whatever.
Well, I agree with you about the music, and actually, music doesn't bother me at all for the most part. Even to hear it, I'm pretty focused when I'm playing. But what I don't like with the music is when I go to talk to them and they can't hear.
Right.
You know, I'm going to be at the risk of sounding old, because I do it with my kids here where I listen to music pretty loud when I'm listening to, but usually what's going on by myself.
Mm.
But I'll tell, like, my kids, if your music is so loud, you can't hear me yell or talk to you from 5 feet away. It's probably too loud. If I have to yell fire, I need you to hear me, you know, kind of thing. So that kind of equates on the course is if I'm standing this close to you or 5-10 feet away and I call your name and you can't hear me, it's too loud. I don't care if you're listening to music, but you need to be aware and communicate when it's required. You don't have to like your card mates. You don't have to even want to talk to people. But at some point, 18 times in a round, you're going to have to talk to them at minimum to give a score. And you don't even have to talk to them. You can wave your hands, you know, or whatever you're doing. But you got to know when that comes up. But yeah, it's that music for me. You can have music on the whole time, kind of thing. I don't need to talk to you if you don't have music on. But you need to be aware when I'm getting ready to talk to you, or ask a question, or say you're up, or you need to, you know, you're in my line of sight, or you're walking off too early, you know, or whatever those scenarios are. So
I'll be honest, I haven't had too much trouble with that, especially, you know, Kansas City area.
Yeah,
everybody's pretty chill about everything. So
sure. Well, I agree with it. You know, just I don't know that it bothers me so much, except for those certain situations, but probably not enough to make my pet peeve list. So I created a little list. So we got plenty of episodes to talk about all the things that I don't like, and hopefully some people see these, like I said, and go, you know, I listen to my music all the time. I didn't realize, you know, where you're playing casually with friends, maybe you don't play tournaments, you know, or things like that. So you'll learn. So, all right, well, we're going to start concluding here, but just to kind of finalize a little bit here, I've noticed here in the last week, some of it today, just to see if you have an opinion about it, but there's 2 new discs that are coming out. The OptoX Fuse, which I can't remember whose signature disc that was going to be. I don't know if that was Johnny's or who that was. And then the OptoX Explorer, which I believe is Keith Emerson's signature disc. Okay. You excited for any of those?
Probably not me personally. I don't bag either one. I know both of them are very popular molds. Yep. Especially I know more about the Explorer. I mean, it came out, you know, last year and everything. So,
well, the Fuse I use a lot. I actually give a lot of the discs to new players. I like the Fuse personally. I think it's a great beginner disc. I think, but it's a good advanced disc too, because if you can control your arm speed and throw it, you can keep that. You can put it on a line, turning over, dead straight, whatever you need to do with it. The OptoX version, with the assumption that it's going to have more fade, be more overstable, probably it's not going to be quite the beginner friendly as much, but I think it's going to make it for that advanced player, open player who needs that extra little bit of resistance to torque,
Right.
so you can push on it. The Explorer, I've kind of been going back and forth between the Explorer and Getaway. So I'd definitely be curious to try
I love the Getaway.
the Explorer. But yeah, one day I'll throw in the Getaway exactly what I want, and then for some reason I'll forget about the Getaway and I'll start throwing the Explorer. I have them both in my bag. I've told myself many times, you just need to take one of them out. One of them's got to come out. It's like you can't learn it by constantly throwing two different ones. So, but the topic that got me really excited about today was one, Keith Emerson got re-signed with Latitude 64 today, and or today, and known this episode isn't coming out for at least another week. So by the time you guys see this, he will have already been signed for at least a week by then. But I've met Keith a couple times at a few of the bigger events. Great guy, kind of quiet, but I enjoyed talking with him. So I was excited to see him re-sign, especially with where the Trilogy brands are now, with where they've lost a lot of the superstars, so to speak.
Right.
You know, one of the questions we talked about in the past episode is who's going to be that next person to step up. You know, and you have Johnny McRae, and we signed up Grady Shue, which I'm very excited. You have Eric Oakley and Zach Melton, who are stepping up a lot, who are doing a lot of things. But Keith Emerson, I think, is a quiet one, and he lives down in Dallas, or I don't know where exactly he lives, but I think he lives in Louisville or Dallas, Texas, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I know.
And
Texas,
but he plays in 2018. For those who don't know, he played 58 tournaments.
Wow.
So there's 52 weekends in a year. So he played
busy.
He played 58 events and he won 21 of them.
Wow. That's
So
impressive.
yeah, he's playing. Now the nice thing about Dallas though, where versus the rest of the country, is you have Dynamic Disc Carrollton is down there, and they host Flex Starts every single Friday. I'm not sure if it's 100% all year round, 52 weeks, but for the most part, they do it every weekend. And of course, they run a slew of tournaments. So
Right.
in Texas, but in the Dallas area, you have the opportunity to play a lot of tournaments. But Emerson travels various places too, and I saw today when I looked up his stuff that he's signed up for a few events already coming up in this year. A few Dallas tournaments, like I can't remember any of the names of them. Chill or Cedar Creek, I think. I don't know. I'm trying to make up names for the few events I remember down in Texas. But I'm excited. He kind of added to that list of people. I'm excited to see what happens this year. And we're almost 5 weeks away from the start of the national tour, and it's already coming around. And I can't even imagine our foot of snow is going to be gone by then. And I was like, and I can't believe I keep complaining about a foot of snow. Like I said, I'm from Wisconsin, and we're used to feet of snow. And I guess I've been spoiled here in Kansas City, where I shovel maybe once a year, and I shoveled more this past week than I probably have in the last 7 years combined. I feel like
It really covers us up a little bit.
and we're expecting another 4 to 6 inches and rain this weekend for our ice bowl. So, and I got a whole stack of discs still that I'm excited to go throw that I can't because they're white.
I know how to fix that.
Well, I still got to find them. So I did a review for those that had seen on the Guard. Hopefully by the time this came out, hopefully I've done the Keystone. Actually, I'm going to do a Guard versus Keystone. So to kind of see, they're two different types of putters. You know, the Guard is more a dagger-like, a beadless dagger-like, where the Keystone is probably like a slightly less stable deputy, in my opinion. So dagger very much up and down, where
They're both beadless, correct?
Yep. And then the Keystone's got a lot of glide. So I kind of want to be able to show that comparison. So hopefully I have that out. And assuming I have that out, which I imagine I will, make sure you check that out. So, but that's going to conclude for us today. Chad, you want to finish out and kind of tell the world what's on your mind? Kind of the stuff you're excited for?
Well, I mean, I'm really excited, for the upcoming season. This will be my third full year, full season of being able to play. And I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's hard for me to not get into the tournaments, especially locally. We've got a really great, base here in the Kansas City area. A lot of great tournaments that you put on, and some of the other guys, Rob and Jerry and everybody that they put on, and I'm excited to get going. I'm excited to get out there again and represent Truly Unique, and really excited to be going back to GBO. This will be my second year out there.
Which division?
Signed up for rec.
Okay, that's all right. I'm actually signed up to play Pro Masters. I've TD'd Municipal for the last 7-8 years, and this year I wanted to play, and so I'm signed up to play Pro Masters for GBO.
There you go.
I don't even know what to look up. I feel like I'm going to GBO for the first time.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm really hoping to. I'm really hoping that I can pull down some wins this year. And I kind of look at that with GBO as far as the rec division. That's one of those tournaments that you see everybody kind of really plays the division that they're eligible for.
Sure.
So, being 865 rated, I'm kind of right in the probably upper third maybe of that, so, but I'm really kind of hoping for a little bit of redemption.
I think a lot of people say that.
Last year I had a pretty good first round, and the second round, kind of wasn't.
Gotcha.
So, I'm hoping to kind of smooth that out a little bit and finish up there. My goal is to finish in the top 5 this year.
Oh yeah, that's a good goal.
So,
all right. Well, I wish you luck. And I'll see you plenty of times before. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Again, I'm Scott with Trilogy Talk, episode 4. Thanks for watching. Make sure that if you enjoy watching these shows, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you want to know when I put out these videos or any side videos, reviews, or other things like that, click on the little bell notification to let you know when you receive those from YouTube. But thank you for watching, and you guys have a good day.
See ya.